He was Marcus Thorne, a New York real estate billionaire. She was Olivia, his pregnant wife, decorating their new nursery. Their life looked perfect, until she found the messages. The messages weren't just an affair, they were a plan. They discussed her pregnancy as an inconvenience, and the prenup as a cage. They thought she was a fragile, hormonal wife who would cry and scream. They were wrong. While her billionaire husband parted with his mistress, Olivia Hayes did something else. She didn't cry, she didn't scream. She called a lawyer, and in total silence, she began to dismantle his entire empire. The penthouse on Central Park South was less a home and more a statement. It was a 10,000-square-foot testament to the power of Marcus Thorne, a man who didn't just build skyscrapers but seemingly collected the sky itself. Olivia Hayes, his wife of 3 years, often felt like just another acquisition, the beautiful, well-educated, placid wife who completed the portfolio. Today, however, the apartment's marble chill was broken by a rare warmth. Olivia, 6 months pregnant, was supervising the assembly of a pale grey, hand-carved crib. It was an obscenely expensive piece, imported from France, and it was the only thing in the vast home she felt she had truly chosen. "A little to the left, please, Miguel," she said softly, her hand resting protectively on the swell of her stomach. The baby kicked, a small, reassuring flutter. This was her anchor. This child was real, in a life that often felt like a performance. Marcus Thorne was a force of nature. He was handsome in a brutal, corporate way. Sharp suits, a voice that never rose but always commanded, and eyes that assessed value in a single glance. He had inherited a substantial family business, Thorne Global Properties, and, through a seriesime of ruthless acquisitions, had multiplied its worth tenfold. He was, by all accounts, a genius, and he was, Olivia believed, her husband. Lately he was distant. "The Singapore deal, darling," he'd murmur, kissing her forehead before disappearing into his home office for hours. "It's a beast. Merger closing," he'd text, cancelling dinner yet again. Olivia, ever the understanding wife, would nod. She'd eat her chef-prepared meal alone, overlooking the glittering expanse of Manhattan, and tell herself this was the price of a life she'd never dreamed of. She'd met him at a charity gala, a quiet art historian dwarfed by his ambition. He'd pursued her with a singular, focused intensity that she'd mistaken for love. Now she understood it was acquisition. This evening, the nursery was finally complete. The scent of fresh paint and new linen filled the air. She was humming, organizing tiny cashmere onesies when Marcus finally came home. He didn't come to the nursery. She heard the clink of ice in a glass from the living room. She walked out, her smile bright. "Marcus, it's done. You have to come and see." He was standing by the floor-to-ceiling windows, his back to her, a tumbler of Macallan 25 in his hand. "In a minute, Liv. Just winding down." "It's beautiful," she pressed gently. "I think you'll—" "I'm sure it is," he cut in, his voice clipped. He turned and his smile didn't reach his eyes. "You've got impeccable taste. That's why I married you." He checked his watch, a Patek Philippe he'd bought last month. "I have to take a call. London is online." He brushed past her, his phone already to his ear, and shut the study door with a soft, definitive click. The distance wasn't just in his time, it was in his touch. He hadn't truly looked at her, or her pregnant belly, in weeks. A small, cold knot of dread, one she'd been diligently ignoring, tightened in her stomach. She dismissed it as hormones. She was pregnant. She was emotional. He was just busy. It was the Singapore deal. She went back to the nursery and sat in the glider, rocking herself slowly, convincing herself of the lie. Later that night, she was woken by the low murmur of his voice. He was in the master bathroom, the door slightly ajar. He thought she was asleep. "I told you, it's handled," he was whispering, his voice not sharp, but soft, seductive. A voice she hadn't heard, directed at her in a long time. "No, she has no idea. She's too busy playing house. Yes, St. Bart's is booked, as soon as the merger ink is dry." I know. You too." Olivia's blood turned to ice. She didn't move. She didn't even breathe. He came back into the bedroom, the scent of expensive whiskey and a faint, unfamiliar perfume. A floral, something sharp like tuberose, clinging to him. He slipped into bed, his back to her, and within minutes he was breathing the deep, even breaths of a man with no conscience at all. Olivia lay awake until the first grey light of dawn broke over the city, the cold dread now a sickness in her throat. St. Bart's, a perfume she didn't own, a voice that wasn't hers. Her perfect life had just fractured, and she was terrified to look at the pieces. The next 2 days were a blur of performative normalcy. Olivia made breakfast. She attended her prenatal yoga class. She smiled, she nodded, and all the while the whispers from the bathroom replayed in her mind. St. Bart's. She has no idea. You too. Marcus was oblivious, lost in the hum of his own world. He was so confident in her passivity, so assured of her blindness, that he'd become careless. The carelessness was his first mistake. His second mistake was gifting her a new tablet. "For the baby," he'd said distractedly over breakfast on Wednesday, sliding a sleek, silver box across the marble island. "You can order all whatever it is you order. And it's linked to my master account, so don't worry about the cost." "Thank you, Marcus. That's very thoughtful." He'd grunted in response, already buried in the Wall Street Journal. She set up the tablet that afternoon. It was, as he said, linked to his master Apple account, his calendars, his contacts, and his iMessages. They flooded in, a digital torrent sinking from his phone. Most were boring. "Markets up. Confirm 4 p.m. Send the draft." And then a thread appeared. The name was Sienna. Olivia's heart hammered against her ribs. She knew that name. Sienna Valenti. The new, brilliant, dangerously beautiful VP of Mergers and Acquisitions at Thorne Global. The woman Marcus had praised just last week as a real killer instinct. Olivia's fingers trembled as she opened the thread. It went back months. "Sienna, just landed in Singapore. Hotel is divine. Wish you were here instead of at that dreary board meeting." Marcus, "Almost done. We'll be there by midnight. Save me a drink." Sienna, "A drink? That's all?" Marcus, "Don't be greedy. Not yet. That was 3 weeks ago, when he was supposedly stuck in negotiations." Olivia scrolled, her nausea rising with every message. She saw it all. The shared hotel rooms filed under executive travel, the coded language, the plans, and then she saw the messages from the night she'd overheard him. "Sienna, is she getting suspicious? You seemed tense on the phone." Marcus, "She's pregnant, Sienna. She's always tense, or tired, or something. Honestly, it's a useful distraction. She's so focused on the nursery, she wouldn't notice if I painted the walls black." Sienna, "Poor you, trapped with the nesting mother." "When do I get you for St. Bart's?" Marcus, "Booked, the week of the 14th. The merger closes on the 13th. We'll celebrate." Sienna, "And what about her and the—" Marcus, "Stop worrying. The prenup is a fortress. She's provided for, but she can't touch the company. She's not a threat. She's just the mother of my heir. It's fine. She's not a threat. A useful distraction. The prenup is a fortress." The words echoed in the silent, empty penthouse. The pain was immediate and visceral, a white-hot blade through her chest. She stumbled to the bathroom, the one where he'd stood, and was violently sick. The man she'd married, the father of her unborn child, saw her as a nesting animal, a distraction, a line item on a balance sheet, secured by a prenuptial agreement. When the sickness passed, the grief remained, but it was quickly crystallizing into something else. It wasn't the fiery rage she would have expected. It was cold. It was absolute. It was a silence so profound it felt like the air pressure in the room had dropped. He didn't just cheat. He discussed her and their child with contempt. He'd used her pregnancy, the most vulnerable time in her life, as a cover. Olivia walked back to the tablet. Her hands were perfectly steady now. She began to scroll, but this time she wasn't a wife. She was an archivist. She screenshotted every single message. The St. Bart's plans, the hotel receipts he'd forwarded to Sienna, the disparaging comments about her. She forwarded them all to a new, encrypted email account she created on the spot, one with a name that meant nothing, project.anchor. Twerwa@gmail.com, she found his calendar. St. Bart's wasn't on it. Of course not, but on the 14th there was a 3-day block marked Thorn Global, Singapore Summit. She kept digging. She found a forwarded email chain. It was from his personal jeweler, a private house called Benoit and Fils in Paris. The subject, Ray Custom Piece. Attached was an invoice and a photo. It was a Cartier Love bracelet, the one paved with diamonds. It wasn't a new design, but the invoice was for a custom engraving on the inside. SV Forever. MT. The bracelet had been delivered to his private office 2 weeks ago. Olivia had never seen it. She saved the invoice. She saved the photo. She cross-referenced the delivery date. It was the same day he'd come home late, claiming a dinner with the board, and had given her a bouquet of supermarket carnations, a paltry, thoughtless offering. The betrayal was no longer just emotional. It was financial. It was logistical. It was a conspiracy. Olivia wiped the tablet clean, factory reset it, and then placed it back in its silver box. She walked into the nursery, the room that was supposed to be her sanctuary, and looked at the soft grey crib. He thought she was a nesting mother. He thought she was a useful distraction. He had no idea who he was married to. She picked up her phone. She didn't call her sister. She didn't call her mother. She scrolled to a contact she'd been given by a friend at the art gallery, a woman who had gone through a similar, high-profile divorce. The contact was saved under a simple, innocuous name, E. Reed. She typed a message. "My name is Olivia Hayes. I am the wife of Marcus Thorne. I need to schedule an immediate and confidential consultation. I have evidence. I am 6 months pregnant, and I want a divorce." She hit send. Then she deleted the message from her phone. She deleted the new email from her history. She went to the kitchen and began to prepare dinner as if it were just another Wednesday. The silence had begun. The reply from E. Reed came the next morning. It was brief and clinical. "My office, Friday, 3 p.m. Use the south entrance on 52nd Street. Do not give your name to the lobby. Ask for suite 4500. They will be expecting Ms. Bennett. Bring $20,000 in cash or cashier's check for the initial retainer, and bring your evidence." Olivia's stomach clenched. $20,000. She had her own bank account, a generous allowance Marcus provided, but a withdrawal that large would trigger an alert. She couldn't risk it. She went to her jewelry box. Tucked in the back was a pair of sapphire and diamond earrings, a bequest from her grandmother. They were her most prized possession, the only thing of real value that wasn't from Marcus. She looked at them, her heart aching. War requires sacrifice. She spent the morning at a high-end consignment jeweler on Madison Avenue, a place that specialized in discreet sales. By noon, the earrings were gone. In her purse, she had a cashier's check for $22,500. She felt hollow, but resolved. Friday arrived. Olivia told Marcus she had a long prenatal checkup and massage booked. He barely looked up from his laptop. Great, have fun. Evelyn Reed's office was not what Olivia expected. It wasn't a glass and steel tower. It was a pre-war building, discreet and elegant. Suite 4500 had no name on the door. Inside, the waiting room was hushed, panelled in dark wood, and empty. A moment later, a woman who looked more like a university provost than a divorce shark emerged. She was in her late 50s, with sharp grey hair cut into a severe bob, wearing a perfectly tailored navy blue suit. This was Evelyn Reed. Her eyes, behind expensive, minimalist glasses, were the colour of a winter sky. Miss Bennett, this way. Her office was immaculate, overlooking a quiet courtyard. There was no clutter, just a desk, 2 chairs, and a wall of law books. The check, Evelyn said, not as a request, but a command. Olivia handed it over. Evelyn glanced at it, then at Olivia's pregnant stomach. You said you're 6 months. Whose child? His. Marcus Thorne's. I'm 100% certain. Good, that's the only leverage you've got. What's the prenup? I have a copy. Olivia's hands trembled as she pulled the thick document from her bag. She'd retrieved it from the home safe that morning. Evelyn took it and scanned the first few pages, her speed terrifying. She hummed. Drafted by Julian Vance. He's good. Very good. Standard Billionaire's armor. You get the penthouse for 2 years post-divorce, a lump sum of $5 million and $50,000 a month in alimony, non-negotiable. In exchange, you waive all rights to all properties, assets and business holdings, present and future. It's an iron box, Miss Hayes. You signed away everything. But he's having an affair, Olivia whispered, her voice sounding pathetic even to her own ears. Evelyn Reed almost smiled. It was not a kind expression. And? New York is a no-fault state. Infidelity is for the New York Post, not the court. It's a morals clause, but the penalty here is, let me see. Yes. If he's at fault, he forfeits his right to the $5 million he would have gotten if you cheated. It's meaningless. This prenup is designed to let him cheat, Miss Hayes. It's a permission slip. The blood drained from Olivia's face. So, I have nothing. You have a child. Child support will be astronomical. We'll get you $100,000 a month, maybe more, just for the child. You'll be comfortable, Evelyn said dismissively, but you won't touch his empire. You won't get the justice you're looking for. You'll be the comfortable, discarded first wife. Olivia sat back, the room spinning. This was it. She'd be paid off. He'd be in St. Bart's with Sienna, and she'd be comfortable. No, Olivia said, the word quiet but hard. Evelyn raised an eyebrow. You said you have evidence, the lawyer prompted. Of the affair? Yes, Olivia explained the tablet, the messages, the jeweler's invoice. Good. All good. It gives us a narrative. It makes him look bad, which might get him to the table faster to protect his reputation. We can leak it, but it won't break the prenup. Olivia took a deep breath. There's something else. I don't know if it's anything. Try me. He's been working on a massive merger, a Singaporean rate. It's all he talks about. But he's also been strange. He has a second laptop, a black, unbranded one. He never lets it out of his sight, and he takes calls in his study, but I can hear him. I think he's speaking German. Does he speak German? Not that I know of. He speaks French, but this sounds guttural, different. He's on the phone with his finance guys. I hear names. Roth, Kessler. And I think he's moving money. More than usual. He's always talking about mitigating exposure before the merger. But this feels different. Secretive. He's been using a specific safe in his study. Not the main one where we keep passports. A smaller one, hidden behind a false bookcase. Evelyn Reed, for the first time, leaned forward. Her winter sky eyes were no longer bored. They were focused. A safe. Do you have access to it? No, it's a biometric keypad, thumbprint. His thumbprint. Yes. Evelyn's face fell. Then it's useless. A court won't grant us a warrant to open a private safe based on a wife's feeling. Not in a divorce proceeding. Not against Marcus Thorne. Olivia's mind raced. A thumbprint. She remembered Marcus, drunk on New Year's Eve, boasting to a rival. My entire rainy day fund is secured by one thing. Me. Can't hack a thumbprint. But then, a different memory surfaced. Just last week. Marcus had cut his thumb badly on a broken wine glass. A deep, jagged cut. He'd cursed, wrapped it in a bandage, and complained for 2 days that he couldn't unlock his phone or the damned office safe. He cut his thumb, Olivia said slowly, last Tuesday. Badly. On his right hand. He was complaining he couldn't unlock the safe. So how did he open it? Evelyn pressed. He had to. He had a call. I heard him swear, and then I heard the keypad. Beep, 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 then the click. He used a numerical code, Evelyn breathed. A backup code. Do you know it? No, Olivia said, her heart sinking. Then find it, Evelyn said, her voice like steel. You're going to stay. You're going to play the loving, pregnant wife. You are going to smile, and you are going to listen. You are going to find that code. Because, Miss Hayes, an affair will get you an apartment. But if a man like Marcus Thorne is using a secret safe and a backup laptop while speaking German, he's not just hiding money from a merger, he's hiding it from the government, and that is the key that unlocks everything. A close call came 2 nights later. Olivia was in his study, a place she rarely entered. She was looking for anything. A post-it note, a journal. The black laptop was on his desk, but it was locked and encrypted. Useless. She was running her fingers along the desk drawer when she heard the penthouse door open. Liv? You home? He was home. 2 hours early. Her heart stopped. She was trapped in his inner sanctum. She heard his footsteps on the marble floor. In the study, darling, she called out, her voice miraculously light. She grabbed a book, a heavy biography of Rockefeller, from his shelf and sat in his leather chair, propping her feet up. He opened the door, his eyes immediately suspicious. What are you doing in here? Just reading, she said, patting her belly. The nursery glider is comfortable, but this chair is heaven on my back. I hope you don't mind. He stared at her for a long, agonizing moment. She held her breath, her smile placid. Fine, he said, loosening his tie. Just don't touch my desk. I've got the entire Singapore deal spread out. Of course not, she said, marking her page. I'm just the nesting mother, remember? What? Nothing, darling. Just a silly pregnancy brain. Did you want a drink? He relaxed. She was just Liv, his harmless, pregnant wife. Yeah, he said, turning away. Get me the Macallan, and don't mess up my chair. As he walked out, she let out the breath she'd been holding. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely hold the book. But as she left the room, her eyes scanned the desk one more time. Tucked under his keyboard, she saw a simple, yellow post-it note. It wasn't a code, it was a name and a number. Dr. Kessler. 011-4930. 0149, the country code for Germany. She committed the number to memory. She had her next piece. The next week was a psychological tightrope. Olivia existed in a state of bifurcated reality. Outwardly, she was the perfect, glowing, expectant mother. She finalized the birth plan. She lunched with Marcus's mother. She dutifully rubbed cocoa butter on her stretching skin. Inwardly, she was a spy. The name Kessler and the German phone number were her first solid lead. Evelyn Reed's team, with its quiet and terrifying efficiency, got to work. Dr. Thomas Kessler, Evelyn reported back in a hushed phone call. Olivia now used a burner phone, hidden in a box of maternity clothes. Not a medical doctor. He's a wealth manager at a private, invitation-only bank in Berlin. Roth Kessler Private Wealth. They specialize in asset protection and creative holding structures. They're boutique, they're discreet, and they're borderline illegal. If Marcus is talking to them, he's building a fortress. The safe was now Olivia's obsession. The code. Beep, 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 beep. 6 digits. She tried everything. Their anniversary, 06/20/19. Error. Beep, beep, beep. His birthday, 11/04/82. Error. Her birthday, 05.12/90. Error. The penthouse address, the last 6 of his social. Nothing. She was growing desperate. The Singapore summit. His alibi for the St. Bart's trip with Sienna was in 10 days. She was running out of time. She thought back, trying to rebuild every conversation she'd ever had with him about numbers, about dates. He was not a sentimental man. An anniversary would be too obvious to her. It had to be his. She remembered a speech he'd given at a gala honoring him. She'd been bored, smiling until her face ached, but one line had stuck with her. He'd raised his glass. People ask me my birthday. They say November 4th. But I was truly born on October 14th, 2011, the day my first venture, Apex, went public, the day I made my first billion, October 14th, 2011, 10/14/11. That night, she waited. Marcus was at a strategy dinner. She knew from the iMessage sync, which she now checked religiously, that he was actually at the Baccarat Hotel bar with Sienna. At 1 a.m., her house phone rang. It was him. His voice was thick with alcohol and smugness. Liv, darling, I'm going to stay downtown, at the club. Too late, too tired. Don't wait up. Of course, Marcus. Get some rest. I love you. Yeah, you too. He hung up. He wouldn't be home. The penthouse was hers. She walked to the study. The building was silent, save for the distant, endless hum of the city. She pulled back the heavy, brocade-bound copy of War and Peace on the shelf. The false panel clicked open, revealing the small, black, digital safe. Her fingers were icy. She pressed the keys. 101411. A single, affirmative beep. The light turned from red to green, a heavy thunk as the bolt retracted. Olivia pulled the door open. Her heart was a hummingbird in her chest. It wasn't cash. It wasn't gold. It was a laptop, the black, unbranded one, and a single, hard-bound, black ledger. She sat at his desk, the one she'd been forbidden to touch. She opened the ledger. It wasn't written in English. It was German. Columns of numbers, dates, and unfamiliar names. But numbers were a universal language. She saw Roth Kessler at the top of several pages. She saw wire transfers for millions of dollars. 10 Millionen, 20 Millionen. These were sums she couldn't comprehend. And then she saw the memo lines. SV consulting fee, 500,000 USD. SV property acquisition, 2,000 USD. SV Sienna Valenti. He wasn't just buying her bracelets. He was buying her a property. He was disguising it as a consulting fee and running it through this shadow bank. This was it. This was financial infidelity on a scale that dwarfed the emotional kind. He was actively moving marital assets, hiding them in offshore accounts and in his mistress's name, all under the guise of business. She turned her attention to the laptop. She powered it on. It booted to a simple login screen. No password, just a thumbprint sensor. He'd cut his right thumb. She pressed her own thumb to it. Nothing. She tried his left. Nothing. She realized with a jolt that he hadn't disabled the biometric scanner. He'd just added the keypad as a backup. His thumbprint would still work. This laptop was a dead end. But the ledger was everything. Olivia took the burner phone from her pocket. She didn't dare move the ledger. He would know. She began to photograph every single page. Her hands shook, but she forced them steady. Page after page of damning figures, of shell corporations, with names like Apex BVI and Thorn Cayman Holdings, of the clear, deliberate siphoning of his wealth. She photographed the payments to Sienna. She photographed the transfers to Roth Kessler. She took over 100 photos, her back screaming in protest from kneeling on the floor. When she was done, she placed the ledger exactly as she had found it. She closed the safe door. She listened for the click of the bolt. She slid War and Peace back into place. She went back to her room, uploaded the photos to her project, to Anchor email, and sent the link to Evelyn Reed. The subject line was simple: The Fortress. Then she deleted the email, wiped the burner phone, and climbed into her cold, empty bed. She fell asleep almost instantly, the sleep of the truly, profoundly exhausted. The next morning, Evelyn Reed called her on her regular phone. Her voice was electric, unrecognizable. "Olivia, delete the photos from your phone. Now, wipe the burner. Do it. The email is secure. We have it." What is it? What is it? Evelyn laughed, a dry, sharp sound. "It's not a smoking gun, Olivia. It's a nuclear bomb. He's not just hiding money from you. This looks like systematic criminal tax evasion and fraudulent conveyance. He's using the merger to wash his assets and move them offshore before the SEC filing. He's not just a philanderer. He's a crook, a highly organized, very stupid crook." "Stupid?" "He wrote it down. In a book. Men like him," Evelyn said, her voice dripping with the disdain of 1,000 bitter divorces. "They're so arrogant they think they'll never be caught. They need to keep a scorecard." A new, terrifying power settled over Olivia. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now? Now you do the hardest thing yet. You do nothing. He's throwing you a baby shower next week, isn't he?" "Yes, at the plaza." "You will go. You will wear a beautiful dress. You will smile. And you will graciously accept his compliments. You will be the perfect, radiant, nesting mother. You will not give him one single reason to suspect that his world is about to be set on fire." The baby shower was, like all things Marcus Thorne touched, a grotesque display of power disguised as celebration. He'd booked the grand ballroom at the plaza, filled it with thousands of dollars in white orchids, and invited over 100 of New York's social and financial elite. It wasn't a shower for Olivia. It was a PR event for Marcus, the magnanimous family man, on the eve of his massive Singapore merger. Olivia wore a bespoke light blue dress, the color chosen by Marcus's assistant to complement her glow. She felt less like a woman and more like a prop. Her smile was a mask, cemented in place. Her sister Chloe had flown in from Chicago, and her presence was the only thing keeping Olivia tethered to reality. "You look," Chloe whispered, handing her a glass of sparkling cider. "Trapped." "I look serene," Olivia corrected, her voice paper-thin. That's the look we're going for." Marcus was in his element, holding court by the towering cake, his hand possessively on the small of Olivia's back. "My beautiful wife," he boomed to a Forbes reporter. "She's my rock, carrying my son. She's the one who deserves the credit." He hadn't asked if it was a son. He'd just assumed. Olivia smiled and leaned into him, the touch of his hand making her skin crawl. "You're too kind, darling." Then she saw her. Sienna Valenti. She was standing near the orchestra, holding a flute of champagne. She wore a tight, blood-red dress that was wildly inappropriate for a baby shower. She looked, Olivia had to admit, stunning. She was sharp, modern, and radiated an ambition that matched Marcus's. And on her wrist, glinting under the chandelier, was the diamond-paved Cartier Love bracelet. SV forever. MT. Marcus hadn't even had the decency to ask her to leave it at home. The arrogance was breathtaking. He saw Olivia looking. "Ah, Sienna," he called, waving her over. "Come say hello. Sienna is my star VP, darling. She's the one who's been crushing the Singapore deal." Sienna glided over, her eyes locking on Olivia's. There was no shame, no guilt, only a cool, triumphant assessment. She was looking at the woman she was replacing. "Olivia," Sienna said, her voice smooth as silk. "What a beautiful party. You are absolutely glowing." "Thank you, Sienna. So kind of you to come," Olivia replied, her voice just as smooth. "Marcus, darling, would you be a love and get me another cider? The baby is just drinking it all up." "Of course," he said, kissing her temple. He was relieved. His two worlds were colliding, and his pregnant wife was being a good sport. He turned to Sienna. "Don't let her overtire you with baby talk, Sienna." He winked. Then he left. The two women were alone, surrounded by the polite roar of the party. Sienna took a sip of her champagne, her eyes running over Olivia's belly with a faint, clinical distaste. "You're very calm," Sienna noted. "Most women at this stage are a mess of hormones." "I'm just so well taken care of," Olivia said, her eyes drifting pointedly to the bracelet on Sienna's wrist. "Marcus thinks of everything, and everyone." Sienna's smile faltered for just a fraction of a second. She'd expected tears or a scene. She hadn't expected ice. "He's a very generous man," Sienna said, recovering. "He values loyalty and results." "He certainly does," Olivia agreed. She looked at the bracelet again. "That's a beautiful piece. Is it new?" Sienna instinctively touched it, a flash of pride in her eyes. "Yes. Recent gift. For closing a preliminary deal. How lovely. It looks just like the one I have. But mine's the classic gold. I've always found the diamond one to be a little desperate, don't you think? So loud. It's as if the person wearing it needs to prove they're valuable." Sienna's face went blank. The insult, delivered with a serene smile, had hit its mark. I don't think—" "Oh, goodness, look at me," Olivia said, laughing lightly and touching her own head. "Baby brain, I'm forgetting my manners. Thank you for all your hard work on the Singapore deal. It must be so exhausting, all that consulting, all those fees, all that travel." The color drained from Sienna's face. The words consulting and fees hung in the air, sudden and sharp. They were the exact words from the ledger. Sienna knew, in that instant, that Olivia knew. Her triumphant smirk vanished, replaced by a flicker of pure panic. I don't know what you're talking about," Sienna stammered. "Don't you?" Olivia said, still smiling. She leaned in, as if sharing a secret. "You're very smart, Sienna. Ambitious, but you tied yourself to the wrong man. He's not generous, he's reckless, and he keeps records." Before Sienna could respond, Olivia turned away. "Chloe!" she called, waving her sister over. "Come, you must try the cake." She left Sienna Valenti standing frozen by the orchestra, the blood-red dress suddenly looking cheap, the $50,000 bracelet on her wrist feeling, Olivia hoped, as heavy as a shackle. Marcus returned, handing Olivia her cider. He glanced at Sienna, who was pale and staring at them. "Is she all right?" he asked. "I think so," Olivia said, taking a sip. "She just seems a little over-invested. Maybe she needs a vacation." "Funny you should say that," he started, but Olivia cut him off. "Oh, darling, it's time to open the presents. I just can't wait." She pulled him toward the mountain of blue and white boxes, her smile brighter than the chandeliers. She had shown her hand, just one card, just to Sienna. She wanted Marcus's mistress to know. She wanted her to spend the next few days in terror, wondering what Olivia knew and when the axe would fall. The rest of the party was a performance of a lifetime. Olivia cooed over silver rattles and designer diaper bags, all while the ledger pages scrolled behind her eyes. "SV consulting fee, 500,000 USD. She had survived, but the mask was heavy, and she didn't know how much longer she could wear it. The Singapore summit was 3 days away. The tension in the penthouse was thick enough to choke on. Marcus was agitated, constantly on his phone, but not with Sienna. The iMessage thread had gone cold. After the baby shower, Sienna had apparently flown to LA for a family emergency. Olivia knew this was a lie. Sienna was running scared. Marcus's agitation was now focused on his German contacts. He took his calls in the study with the door locked. Olivia's calm, serene presence seemed to grate on him. He needed her to be emotional, to be a distraction. Her placidity was unnerving him. "You're awfully quiet," he snapped on Tuesday night, 2 days before his flight. "Just tired, Marcus," she said, folding a baby blanket. "The shower was a lot. I'm just nesting." She used his own word, nesting, and saw him flinch. He grunted and retreated back to his study. It was time. Evelyn's instructions were precise. "You will not leave in a hurry. You will not pack a suitcase. He will cancel your credit cards the second he's served. You will not be able to book a hotel or a flight. You must be gone, with everything you need, before he even knows you're gone." The plan was the donation. For the past week, Olivia had been amassing boxes in the nursery. She'd told Marcus they were duplicates from the shower, gifts to donate to the children's shelter. He'd seen the boxes, labeled "Donation, Upper Baby," and "Donation, Carter's," and thought nothing of it. On Wednesday, the day before Marcus's flight, Olivia executed the plan. Marcus was in an all-day board meeting at his downtown office. He wouldn't be back until late. At 10 a.m., Chloe arrived, not in a taxi, but in a large, anonymous U-Haul van she'd rented for cash from a lot in Queens. She'd parked it at a service entrance 3 blocks away. The doorman, Juan, was on duty. Olivia had been cultivating him for weeks, bringing him coffee, asking about his family, and tipping him extravagantly. "Juan, good morning," she said, her voice warm. "My sister is here. We're finally taking all those donation boxes to the shelter. There are a lot. Is it okay if we use the service elevator? Of course, Mrs. Thorne. Let me get you a cart. You're a lifesaver. Thank you." For 3 hours, Olivia and Chloe moved. The boxes labeled "Donation" contained no baby clothes. One held her grandmother's jewelry, the pieces she hadn't sold, and all the cash she'd been able to pull from her allowance. Another held the burner phone, now wiped clean, and all of her important documents: passport, birth certificate, her mother's address book. A third held her personal laptops, which Evelyn's team had already scrubbed and loaded with security software. The rest of the boxes held her most cherished personal items. Not the designer clothes, but the photo albums, her grandmother's painting, the books she loved. Everything that made her Olivia, not Mrs. Thorne. They packed the U-Haul in the pouring rain, two women sweating and struggling with the heavy-duty tape, looking like any other New Yorkers on moving day. By 1 p.m., the nursery was half empty. The crib was still there. The glider. But the personal touches were gone. "What about the rest?" Chloe asked, breathing heavily. "It's just stuff," Olivia said, looking at a closet full of designer shoes. "He bought it. He can keep it." They drove the U-Haul to a high-end, climate-controlled storage unit in a nondescript building, one Evelyn Reed had secured under a corporate LLC. They unloaded the boxes. Olivia Hayes was now officially erased, her true self safely stored away. Chloe drove her, not to a hotel, but to a high-security, furnished apartment on the Upper West Side, leased for 6 months under the same LLC. It was simple, clean, and above all, anonymous. "Evelyn will have a private security detail outside by 5 p.m., Chloe said, handing her a key. "You're safe here, Liv. You did it." Olivia hugged her sister, the first real, unrestrained hug she'd given in months. "I couldn't have—" "Chloe, thank you." "Go," Chloe said, her eyes fierce. "Go finish this." There was one last thing to do. Olivia took a taxi back to the penthouse. She had to be there when Marcus got home. She had to play the part one last time. She was in the kitchen, calmly making a cup of raspberry leaf tea when he walked in at 7 p.m. He looked exhausted and angry. "Board meeting was a nightmare," he grumbled, throwing his briefcase down. "I swear I'm surrounded by idiots. Is my bag packed for tomorrow?" "Yes, darling," Olivia said, her voice a perfect imitation of wifely duty. "All pressed. Your flight is at 9 a.m., right?" "Yeah, thank God. 3 days in Singapore, then 3 days in St. Bart's. It's just what I need." He'd said it. He'd said St. Bart's out loud. He was so arrogant, so consumed by his own plans that he'd mixed up his lies. Olivia's smile didn't waver. "St. Bart's? I thought you said the summit was in Singapore." Marcus froze. He stared at her. The air crackled. This was the moment, the confrontation, the tears, the screaming he'd been expecting. I meant," he stammered, his mind racing for a save. "The team is going to St. Bart's. After. As a reward. I'm just so tired. I mixed them up. I'm only going to Singapore." "Oh," Olivia said, turning back to her tea. "That's nice for them. You should get some rest, Marcus. You have a long flight." He stared at her, baffled. She wasn't yelling. She wasn't crying. She believed him. Or she just didn't care. He was too tired to figure it out. "Yeah, I'm going to bed." He went into the bedroom. Olivia sat at the kitchen island, sipping her tea, her heart beating a slow, steady, powerful rhythm. He'd just confirmed his own lie. It was the last nail in his coffin. She waited until she heard his deep breathing, the sound that had once brought her comfort and now filled her with disgust. She walked, not to the bedroom, but to his study. On his pristine, billion-dollar desk, she placed a single, plain, white envelope. Inside was not a letter. There were no accusations, no. How could you? There was only one document, a copy of the divorce petition, already filed with the state of New York, and on top of it, the single, unadorned, Cartier Love bracelet, the classic gold one he had given her when they got engaged. She left it there. She walked to the nursery. She looked at the empty shelves and the grey crib. She placed one hand on it, said a silent goodbye, and then walked out. She did not look back. She took the elevator down, walked past the night doorman with a polite, "Good night, Luis," and stepped out into the damp New York street. She got into a black car that was waiting for her, a car sent by Evelyn Reed, and disappeared into the night. The silence was, finally, over. Marcus Thorne woke at 6 a.m. to the smell of nothing. Usually the smell of coffee was brewing. Olivia, even in her 3rd trimester, always got up to see him off. "Liv?" he called. The apartment was still. He grunted, annoyed. She was probably sleeping in. He was running late. He showered, dressed, and went to the kitchen. No coffee. No Olivia. "Olivia!" he yelled, louder this time. He walked to the nursery. He pushed the door open. The room was cold and half empty. The boxes were gone. The shelves were bare. The little cashmere outfits and blankets, gone. A cold, sharp panic, entirely different from his usual business anxieties, seized him. The crib was still there. But she was gone. Her things were gone. He raced back to their bedroom. He flung open her walk-in closet. All her clothes, her shoes, her purses, everything was there. He was confused. She'd left. But she'd left all her valuable things. He saw her jewelry box. He opened it. Empty. Except for the cheap costume pieces. Her grandmother's pearls, the tennis bracelet he'd given her, the sapphire earrings, all gone. She hadn't been kidnapped. She'd left. But why leave the $10,000 handbags and take the sentimental junk? It didn't make sense. He stormed into his study to grab his briefcase. And then he saw it. The white envelope on his desk. His name was not on it. He ripped it open. He saw the legal font first. Supreme Court of the State of New York. County of New York. Petition for dissolution of marriage. Olivia Hayes. Thorne. Petitioner. Versus Marcus A. Thorne. Respondent. His vision tunneled. Divorce. She was divorcing him. "She's getting nothing," he snarled. His first thought of the prenup. "She's getting $50K a month and a condo. She's an idiot." Then he saw the bracelet. His first gift to her. He picked it up. A symbolic, childish gesture. He was furious. He was about to call his lawyer, Julian Vance, to crush her, when his phone rang. It was Julian. "Marcus." Julian's voice was strained, high-pitched. "Where are you?" "I'm in my study. I'm looking at it right now. She's filed." "So what? The prenup is ironclad. Bury her, Julian. Make her pay for this." "Marcus, shut up and listen to me," Julian said, his voice flat. "You are not going to Singapore." "The hell I'm not! The merger!" "The merger is dead, Marcus. So is St. Bart's. So is everything if you don't listen to me. I just got a call from Evelyn Reed. Evelyn Reed." The name sent a jolt of ice water through Marcus's veins. Evelyn Reed wasn't a divorce lawyer. She was a corporate executioner. "So what?" he blustered. "She can't touch me." "She can, Marcus. She's not just filing for divorce. She's filing an emergency injunction to freeze your assets. All of them. Personal and corporate." "She can't! The prenup!" "She's not using the prenup!" Julian roared. "She's alleging fraudulent conveyance, conspiracy and, God help us, Marcus, RICO." "RICO? That's a criminal charge. That's for mobsters. She has no proof." There was a long, terrible silence on the other end of the line. "Julian, what is it?" "Evelyn Reed," Julian said, his voice dropping to a whisper. "Sent me a file, a 100-page PDF. It's... Marcus, it's the Roth-Kessler ledger. She has the German ledger. She has the wire transfers. She has the shell cores. She has the Siena Valenti consulting fee." Marcus Thorne dropped the phone. He stumbled back to his desk. He went to the bookshelf, shoved War and Peace aside, and clawed at the panel. He typed in the code. 101411. The safe opened. The laptop was there. But the black, hard-bound ledger was gone. She'd taken it. The real one. The one with his handwriting. He hadn't been married to a nesting mother. He'd been married to a ghost. The click of the safe opening hadn't just been his code. It was the sound of his entire empire collapsing. "Julian," he said, picking up the phone, his voice hollow. "Call them. Settle. Give her whatever she wants. Just keep the feds out of this." "Marcus," Julian said, his voice grim. "It's too late. Evelyn Reed told me she sent a courtesy copy to the SEC and to the U.S. Attorney's Office, an anonymous tip." Marcus finally, truly understood. Olivia didn't just want a divorce. She wanted to burn it all down. He sank into his leather chair, the one she'd sat in. He was not going to Singapore. He was not going to St. Bart's. He was not going to be a billionaire by lunchtime. He looked at the petition. Grounds for divorce, irreconcilable differences. He laughed, a dry, broken sound. His pregnant, silent wife, the woman he'd dismissed as a useful distraction, had just single-handedly dismantled his life, and she'd done it without raising her voice. The fallout was not a storm. It was an apocalypse. The Wall Street Journal broke the story first, not as a gossip piece, but as a financial earthquake. Thorne Global CEO Marcus Thorne under SEC investigation. Singapore merger halted. The New York Post followed, with a gleeful, full-page headline. Thorne apart, jilted preggy wife's billion-dollar revenge. Marcus was radioactive. His board forced him to step down. His partners sued him. And Sienna Valenti, seeing the ship sinking, immediately turned state's witness in exchange for limited immunity. She gave the feds everything she had, painting Marcus as a master manipulator and herself as a pawn. Marcus was trapped. He was facing a RICO charge, which could mean 20 years in federal prison. He was facing the SEC. He was facing ruin. And then there was Evelyn Reed. The divorce settlement negotiation was not a negotiation. It was an execution. Evelyn Olivia, now 8 months pregnant and radiant, and their team sat across from Marcus and his shell-shocked lawyers. "Here is the offer," Evelyn said, sliding a single paper across the table. "You will not fight it. You will not contest it. You will sign it today." Marcus looked. Olivia wasn't asking for half. She wasn't asking for the company. She was asking for 2 things. 1, the immediate, uncontested, and permanent transfer of $400 million in clean, liquid assets, the amount Evelyn had calculated he'd hidden, not his total worth, into a trust for her and the child. 2, his signature on a document that would cede all total and permanent parental rights. He would have no claim. He would pay no child support. It wasn't needed, but he would also never see the child. He would not be named on the birth certificate. He would, in the eyes of the law, not be a father. "This is," Marcus sputtered, "this is extortion. You want me to give up my child?" Olivia spoke for the first time. Her voice was not loud, but it cut through the room like a diamond. "You gave up your child, Marcus, when you called her a useful distraction. When you put her mother at risk by building a life on criminal lies. You don't get to be a father. You're barely a person. You're just a lesson." She paused, then delivered the final, crushing blow. "Sign it, and I will sign an NDA. My affidavit to the U.S. Attorney will be forgetful. I will state that I found the ledger, gave it to my lawyer, but have no memory of its specific contents. I will be the grieving wife who knew nothing. It might save you from the RICO charge. It might not. But it's the only chance you have." He was trapped. It was $400 million, and his son to maybe stay out of prison. He signed. 3 months later, Olivia Hayes, no longer Thorne, gave birth to a healthy baby girl. She named her Hope. She did not stay in New York. She moved to London, bought a beautiful, light-filled townhouse in Notting Hill, and returned to her first love, art. She endowed a new wing at the Tate for emerging female artists. She was in a quiet London park, pushing hope on a swing, when her phone buzzed. It was a news alert. Former CEO Marcus Thorne, avoiding prison in a deal with prosecutors, pleads guilty to 6 counts of wire fraud and tax evasion, fined $100 million and sentenced to 5 years, suspended, Thorne Global to be broken up and sold for parts. He had avoided prison, but he had lost everything else: his company, his reputation, his name. Olivia looked at the alert, then at her daughter, who was laughing, her face turned up to the sun. Sienna Valenti was last heard of trying to sell a reality show. Julian Vance had been disbarred. The penthouse on the park had been seized by the government. Olivia locked her phone. She didn't feel triumph. She didn't feel rage. She just felt peace. She had faced the fire, and instead of letting it consume her, she had quietly, silently, taken the coals and used them to build a new foundation, a new life. She was not a billionaire's wife. She was just Olivia. And for the first time, she was completely and truly free. And that's the story of Olivia Hayes. She proves that strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes it is the silence of a woman gathering her evidence. She proves that the best revenge isn't screaming or crying. It's strategy. While Marcus and Sienna were blinded by their arrogance, Olivia was playing a different game entirely. She wasn't just leaving a marriage, she was executing a takeover of her own life. What do you think of Olivia's silent strategy? Have you or anyone you know ever had to choose quiet strength over loud drama? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you were captivated by this story, please like this video and share it with someone who needs to hear it. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss another story of justice and true empowerment. Thanks for listening.